They watched, waited, provoked, expecting a storm. They came with thunder in their mouths and chaos in their eyes, but you stood still, calm, not because you were weak, but because you knew who you were. You didn't match their volume because royalty never argues in the mud. You didn't clap back because purpose doesn't need applause. You didn't retaliate because kings and queens don't descend to address jesters in the court. They can't understand it. They don't get how you didn't break, how you didn't scream, how you didn't let their madness become your mirror. What they don't realize is that peace is a weapon, that silence speaks, that when you know your identity, you don't negotiate it in the presence of confusion. You were never trying to win the argument. You were mastering the atmosphere. You see, people of destiny don't perform for approval. When you know the assignment, you don't argue with distractions. You move with divine clarity, not emotional chaos. You carry yourself like someone who knows heaven already signed the deal. You don't flinch because storms don't scare the architect. You've seen the blueprint. You were never reacting. You were discerning. They threw shade expecting you to wilt, but you grew. They lied, hoping to diminish you, but truth never needs defending when it's rooted in legacy. They tried to shake your name, but forgot that what's built on purpose can't be touched by gossip. You were calm because you understood. Some battles are beneath your calling. Some noise is a test to see if you'll forfeit your crown for the satisfaction of clapping back. You were never ignoring them. You were above it. You didn't walk away because you lost. You walked away because peace is more profitable than pride. And they couldn't stand it. They couldn't handle how untouchable you were in your stillness, how untamed your restraint was. Because power that doesn't need to prove itself is the most dangerous kind. They saw calmness and mistook it for surrender. But what they didn't understand is that it takes far more strength to remain still than it does to explode. Anyone can lash out. Anyone can raise their voice, throw accusations, or strike back. But it takes inner mastery to hold your peace when chaos is pressing in on all sides. Calmness is the fruit of discipline. It's the evidence of someone who has done the inner work, who has sat with themselves long enough to no longer be moved by the storms others carry. Staying calm doesn't mean you didn't feel the fire. It means you refused to let it burn your identity. It means you chose wisdom over ego, clarity over confusion. The calm ones have already wrestled with the urge to react and won. The loudest person in the room isn't always the strongest. Strength isn't proven in volume, it's proven in control. And the one who walks in quiet assurance is often the most dangerous in the room because nothing can be taken from them that wasn't given with intention. People think rage is power, but rage is often desperation in disguise. True strength whispers when the world demands a scream. True strength holds its ground with eyes steady and hands still. Not out of fear, but because there is nothing left to prove. You don't react when your value is not up for debate. Calmness is the shield of the secure. It is the silent roar of someone who has already overcome what others are still trying to fight. And that kind of composure shakes people, because deep down, they know it's not the calm that is weak, it's the calm that survived. When you truly know who you are, the noise around you becomes irrelevant. You stop living in reaction to people who never built you, never broke you, and never shaped your destiny. Identity is an anchor. It grounds you when waves of criticism, accusation, or betrayal try to knock you off course. Most people are tossed around because their sense of self is fragile, borrowed, or dependent on external validation. But when your identity is rooted in purpose, in vision, in something greater than applause, you stop flinching at shadows. You no longer need to defend your name in every room where it's been dragged. You don't need to step into every battlefield where your character is questioned. You don't need to explain yourself to minds that were never designed to understand you, because identity isn't proven by convincing others. It's lived through consistent alignment with your truth. You become unshaken because your value isn't up for auction. You didn't come to win them over. You came to walk in what you were born for. When you know who you are, their opinion doesn't shape your response. Your vision does. You start moving with intentional silence. You stop being baited into petty wars that only drain your purpose. You no longer fight to be seen, because you understand some people are blind to greatness unless it reflects their own insecurities. You let go of the need to be understood and instead commit to being authentic. You choose clarity over chaos. You stop justifying your peace to people addicted to drama. People will question you, test you, try to define you by moments they don't even understand. But your identity is not found in their memory. It's found in the quiet covenant between you and the calling that won't let you quit. That's why you stayed calm. That's why you didn't break character. You weren't pretending. You were remembering. You were moving according to a truth deeper than the attack. And that truth reminded you, you don't need to react when you already know who you are. Purpose does not argue. It doesn't lower itself to the level of chaos just to be heard. It doesn't plead for understanding from people who were never meant to walk the same path. Purpose moves like a current, unbothered by the ripples on the surface. It doesn't stop to explain itself to every wave trying to pull it off course. When you are driven by purpose, your energy becomes precious. You no longer waste it trying to prove your worth in conversations designed to drain you. You realize not every accusation deserves your breath, not every confrontation needs your presence, and not every room is qualified to receive your truth. People will try to bait you into battles that have nothing to do with your assignment. They'll want to pull you into arguments to validate their chaos, to provoke a reaction so they can feel powerful. But purpose teaches restraint. Purpose teaches patience. Purpose teaches you to discern the difference between a momentary distraction and a meaningful mission. You begin to understand that some conflicts are nothing but traps dressed as conversations, that some people argue not to understand, but to interrupt the peace you've cultivated. You no longer chase closure in places that offer only confusion. You no longer correct every lie because your life is becoming the loudest answer. You no longer attend every argument you're invited to because purpose keeps you booked, booked with becoming, booked with building, booked with healing, booked with growing into what you were born to be. You are no longer fueled by the need to be right. You are driven by the need to be aligned, and alignment doesn't scream. Alignment moves in silence, knowing that the work will speak louder than the words. Purpose gives you the discipline to walk away without explanation, to choose the high road even when the low road is louder, to remain focused when your name is in conversations that were never meant to hold it. It teaches you that divine timing doesn't answer to human provocation, that destiny doesn't make room for drama. So you stop arguing, you stop explaining, you stop chasing small fires with buckets of wisdom, and you just build, because you understand now, when you are walking in purpose, your silence is not surrender, it's strategy. Peace is not passive, it is power under control. It is the choice to remain grounded while the world around you spins in chaos. It is the ability to stay centered when others are determined to pull you into their storms. Peace is not a lack of feeling, it is the mastery of emotion. It's not that you didn't feel the pressure, the betrayal, the tension. It's that you refuse to let it hijack your presence. Because when you walk in peace, you are not reacting to life. You are responding with intention. Peace unsettles people who expect you to be easily moved. It disturbs those who feed on drama and depend on chaos for validation. It frustrates the enemy when you smile in silence while surrounded by noise, because it shows that your stability is not circumstantial, it is spiritual. Peace is a decision made before the battle begins. It is the invisible armor of someone who knows their worth, their mission, and their source. It is not softness. It is sacred discipline. It is not denial. It is divine discernment. You begin to understand that protecting your peace is not selfish. It is survival. It is strategy. It is how you preserve the clarity needed to walk in purpose. It is how you remain productive in a world that profits from your distraction. When you choose peace, you are refusing to be manipulated by emotion. You are saying, I see the attack, but I will not lower my vibration to meet it. You are no longer a puppet to provocation. You are a master of atmosphere. Peace creates distance without bitterness. It builds walls without hatred. It teaches you to listen without absorbing, to observe without reacting, to feel deeply but respond slowly. It's not that you don't care, it's that you care enough about your assignment not to let every insult rent space in your spirit. Peace is what keeps you steady when the applause stops and the opinions rise. It reminds you that external noise cannot disrupt internal order unless you open the door. And there's something terrifying about a person who is fully at peace, because they can't be baited, bribed, or broken. They don't beg for validation, and they don't move for attention. Their steps are ordered, not reactive. Their decisions are clean, not contaminated by temporary emotions. Peace is not passive. It is bold. It is fierce. It is the evidence of someone who has won the war within and now walks unshaken through the noise without. When your truth is rooted in purpose, you don't panic when lies are spoken. You don't scramble to defend yourself in rooms where your absence is used against you. You don't waste your breath trying to fix what they've chosen to misunderstand. Because truth, when it is anchored in legacy, doesn't compete with noise. It outlasts it. It doesn't race against rumors. It simply keeps showing up in results, in character, in longevity. What is built on integrity will stand when the whispers fade, when the gossip grows tired, when the false narratives collapse under the weight of time. Lies move fast, but they don't move deep. They stir crowds, but they can't shake foundations. And when your name is planted in something eternal, you stop panicking when people try to bury it. You start realizing that their version of the story was never going to change your ending. You are not here to debate your value with people who need you to be small so they can feel significant. The truth about you is not fragile. It does not need constant defense. It does not crumble when challenged. It grows stronger in silence, more visible through action, and more undeniable over time. You learn to resist the urge to clear your name, not because you don't care, but because you know clearing your name in shallow places comes at the cost of losing your peace. You no longer fight for credit in spaces that lack credibility. You realize that energy spent arguing is energy stolen from building. And while they talk, you build. While they twist your words, you speak through your life. While they create confusion, you create fruit. The kind of fruit that can't be faked. The kind of fruit that doesn't need a caption. The kind of fruit that shuts mouths without a single word. You also understand that legacy isn't about proving a point, it's about leaving a path. It's about living in such a way that even your silence has weight, that even when they don't see your side, they can't deny your results, that even when they speak against you, your life testifies louder. The people rooted in truth don't waste time chasing every echo. They walk forward knowing that what's real doesn't beg to be believed, because truth doesn't panic, it endures. And eventually it becomes undeniable. Not every battle is yours to fight. Not every insult is worthy of a response. Discernment is the quiet superpower of those who understand the value of their energy. It is the spiritual intelligence that tells you when to speak and when to be still, when to engage and when to walk away, when to confront and when to outgrow. Discernment isn't about fear or avoidance. It's about recognizing which fires are meant to refine you and which are sent to distract you. Some conflicts are dressed in urgency but carry no significance. They are loud but not lasting. They seek your attention, not your transformation. When you live with purpose, you must also live with precision. You can't afford to be emotionally scattered. You cannot pour your strength into every provocation and expect to remain whole. Discernment teaches you to measure the cost of reaction, to see beyond the surface, to realize that some people don't want resolution. They want your peace. They want your spark. They want access to your atmosphere so they can contaminate it with chaos and call it connection. But when you discern the difference, you protect your oil. You protect your pace. You stop trying to convince unready minds and start preserving your clarity. You begin to sense it intuitively when a situation is beneath your assignment, not because you think you're better than anyone, but because you know you're too focused to be baited. You realize your voice is valuable and shouldn't be loaned to every conflict. Your presence is powerful and shouldn't be spent in rooms that only echo dysfunction. Discernment gives you permission to not attend every battle you're invited to. It frees you from the guilt of silence. It reminds you that not every accusation is an obligation, that sometimes the strongest move is not to strike back, but to stay silent and strategic. And those who lack discernment often confuse stillness with submission. They don't understand that your silence is not weakness, it's wisdom. They don't realize that restraint is often the loudest declaration of strength. Discernment tells you what your emotions won't. It whispers when your ego is screaming for retaliation. It shows you that sometimes elevation requires quiet exits, not dramatic confrontations. That walking away isn't failure, it's foresight. In a world that glorifies constant reaction, discernment is rebellion. It is the refusal to be dragged into energy-depleting cycles. It is the art of choosing your battles based on purpose, not pride. You become unbothered not because you don't feel, but because you've grown. You no longer need to prove your point to every challenger. You've tasted the power of focus, and nothing petty is worth losing it. There is a quiet royalty in emotional control, a noble posture that doesn't need to shout to be heard or rage to be felt. True strength is not always seen in physical power or verbal dominance. It's revealed in restraint, in the ability to hold your fire when every part of you is being provoked. Royalty doesn't argue with everyone who throws stones. It doesn't leave the throne to chase shadows. It knows that reaction is expensive and peace is priceless. When you master your emotions, you rule your world instead of being ruled by it. People expect explosions. They wait for you to break, to lash out, to fall into the same chaos they thrive in. But when you remain composed, when your energy stays stable and your demeanor stays grounded, it disarms them. It dismantles their expectations. Because power isn't just what you say, it's what you don't say when you could. It's the choice to preserve your grace even when your name is dragged, your loyalty is questioned, or your silence is misunderstood. Royalty doesn't need the last word because the crown speaks for itself. Control is not suppression, it's stewardship. It's knowing that every emotion is valid, but not every emotion deserves the mic. It's feeling anger without becoming it. It's standing in a storm and choosing not to become the storm. It's crying in private, but walking into purpose without a tremble. That level of control intimidates those who expect chaos. It frustrates those who try to trigger you, because you're not pretending to be calm, you are practiced in it. You've trained your spirit to respond with wisdom, not wounds. When you know your value, you don't rush to defend it with noise. You guard it with silence and intention. You no longer bleed for the approval of the crowd. You understand that dignity is louder than drama. You walk like someone who has healed, someone who has already faced the fire and learned not to let it burn the inside. You no longer allow emotion to hijack your purpose. Instead, you use it as fuel, channeled, refined, converted into forward motion. Royal behavior is not about pride. It's about presence. It's the presence of mind to pause, the presence of spirit to see through the attack and respond from vision, not vengeance. You start making decisions from the throne, not the wound. You don't perform rage for spectators. You don't allow your feelings to distort your future. You lead yourself. You master your narrative. And nothing is more dangerous to the enemy than a soul that feels deeply and still chooses to move wisely. This is not emotional detachment. It is emotional mastery. It is the sacred discipline of knowing that the loudest person in the room may have the least control, and the one sitting still in silence might just be holding the authority. That's royalty. That's resilience. That's emotional power refined into leadership. Confidence that doesn't need an audience is the most unshakable kind. It's not loud. It doesn't need to be praised, and it refuses to shrink or perform for applause. When you are truly confident, rooted, grounded, anchored in who you are, you no longer chase validation. You don't have to constantly explain your moves, prove your worth, or convince others of your vision. You don't need permission to exist boldly. You walk into rooms without overcompensating because you know your presence alone is enough. You know your silence carries weight, your decisions hold purpose, and your absence can speak louder than any introduction. You stop trying to impress, you stop adapting to expectations that don't align with your identity. You lose interest in being liked and instead become obsessed with being true. You show up in your fullness without shrinking, without second guessing, without apologizing. That kind of confidence rattles people because they can't figure out who made you so sure. They can't trace it to status, to applause, or to approval, and that confuses those who rely on those very things to feel seen. But your confidence didn't come from them. It came from surviving things that tried to break you, from showing up every day with nothing but vision and grit, from being faithful in the dark until the light revealed your value. Confidence without performance is magnetic. It moves quietly, but with undeniable presence. It's not brash, but it's undeniable. It doesn't seek to dominate, it simply refuses to disappear. It walks into conversations and doesn't over-explain. It allows silence to work. It trusts the atmosphere to reveal what doesn't need to be said. You don't compete when you know there's no competition for what's yours. You don't argue when you understand that your energy is too expensive to waste on ego battles. You simply walk in alignment, and the right people, opportunities, and outcomes align with you. That level of self-trust can't be faked. It comes from internal work that no applause can create and no criticism can destroy. It's born from fire, from failure, from reflection, from showing up when no one saw you, from deciding that you are enough even if they never say it. When you walk in that kind of truth, you stop explaining your piece. You stop diluting your brilliance to make others comfortable. You don't need to post every move, announce every win, or share every plan, because real confidence is secure in the unseen. It grows in silence and flourishes in presence. People who walk in quiet confidence are not emotionally dependent on feedback. They listen, but they are not led by noise. They observe, but they are not shaped by trends. They are consistent because their identity isn't borrowed. Their worth isn't rented. Their confidence is built from within and cannot be revoked by someone else's misunderstanding. And that, more than anything, is what makes them powerful, because nothing external can validate or void what was forged in the unseen. Walking away is one of the most misunderstood acts of strength. Too often people mistake it for weakness, defeat, or abandonment, but in reality, it is the highest form of wisdom and self-respect. Knowing when to step back is a skill refined by experience and clarity. It takes courage to disengage from conflict, to remove yourself from toxicity, and to refuse to be dragged into battles that don't serve your destiny. Walking away is not about running from problems. It's about running toward your purpose without being weighed down by unnecessary distractions. When you walk away, you are making a deliberate choice to preserve your energy, your peace, and your progress. You understand that some battles are traps disguised as challenges, designed not to elevate you, but to consume you. By stepping away, you take back control of your narrative instead of letting others write it for you. You refuse to be caught in the endless cycle of proving yourself to people who have already made up their minds. You choose to focus on what fuels your growth rather than what fuels the drama. Walking away also demonstrates that your value is not tied to someone else's acceptance or approval. It shows that you honor yourself enough to not linger where you are not respected or valued. It is a statement of boundary setting that says, I will not sacrifice my peace for the comfort of others' chaos. It's a refusal to negotiate your worth in spaces that try to diminish it. When you walk away, you reclaim your power and send a message that your peace is non-negotiable. This act of separation is not about bitterness or resentment. It is about elevation and clarity. It allows you to rise above petty conflicts and redirect your focus toward your mission. You create space for new opportunities, healthier relationships, and greater alignment with your true self. Walking away clears the fog of distraction and opens the path to intentional living. It reminds you that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is to stop fighting a losing battle and start fighting for yourself. Ultimately, walking away is an expression of self-mastery. It signals to the world, and more importantly to yourself, that you have learned the art of choosing your battles wisely. You understand that not all fights are yours to win, and not all engagements are worthy of your time. You protect your legacy by refusing to be consumed by every conflict that arises. In that stillness, in that intentional retreat, you grow stronger, wiser, and more unstoppable. Walking away is not surrender, it is strategy. It is the quiet power move of someone who is fully committed to winning the war on their own terms. Victory is not always about loud celebrations or visible triumphs. Sometimes victory is the quiet endurance that happens behind the scenes, the steady perseverance that no one sees but the one living it. The calm you hold in the face of adversity is a form of silent conquest, a proof that you are not defeated by circumstances or the efforts of those who seek to destabilize you. True victory is often invisible to the world because it happens inside, within your mind, your heart, and your spirit, long before it is ever seen in the outer world. When you choose calm over chaos, you claim victory over your impulses, over the urge to react out of hurt or anger. You break the cycle of reaction and replace it with response. This shift is where true power lives. It's where you take control of your narrative and refuse to let others dictate your emotional state. It is the ultimate win to be able to look at conflict and say, "You will not steal my peace. You will not provoke my spirit." This kind of victory is permanent because it doesn't rely on external validation or fleeting moments of applause. It is forged in resilience, sustained by discipline, and sealed by unwavering self-belief. People who have mastered this kind of victory know that battles are won long before the fighting begins. They prepare themselves mentally, emotionally, and spiritually so that when storms come, they stand unshaken. They understand that the loudest victories often come in silence, and that the greatest strength is shown not in the fight, but in the calm after the fight. Victory is not always flashy. Sometimes it is a quiet throne built on patience, endurance, and steadfastness. When others expect you to crumble, to lash out, or to lose control, your calmness becomes a testament to your strength. It unsettles your opponents because it reveals that you are untouchable in ways they don't understand. It shows that your power does not depend on external conditions, but on an internal fortress that cannot be breached by noise, criticism, or attacks. This calm victory becomes your signature, an unspoken message that you are the author of your own story and no one else holds the pen. This victory also rewires your relationship with conflict and challenge. Instead of viewing them as threats, you see them as opportunities to demonstrate your mastery. You recognize that each test is a chance to prove your endurance, your integrity, and your capacity to rise above. The calm you maintain is a shield, a weapon, and a crown all at once. It signifies that you have won the war within and are now walking in the freedom of that conquest. Ultimately, this kind of victory transforms you. It makes you resilient beyond measure, unshakable in spirit, and unwavering in purpose. It empowers you to live boldly without fear of disruption, to lead without needing to prove yourself, and to thrive in silence when the world expects noise. This victory is a lifelong triumph, a testament to the power of calm in the face of chaos and the unstoppable force of a spirit that refuses to be broken. In every challenge faced, the true measure of strength is not how loudly you fight back, but how calmly you carry yourself through the storm. Your composed spirit, anchored in purpose and peace, speaks louder than any argument or attack. When you refuse to be baited, when you choose silence over chaos, and when you walk away with dignity, you embody a power that cannot be shaken or undone. This calm mastery is the ultimate victory, a profound statement that you are unbreakable, unshakable, and unapologetically in control of your destiny. Let your silence roar louder than their noise, and watch as your unwavering peace becomes the fiercest form of triumph.